Demonology Warlock seems impossible to manage until you realize it all comes down to summoning demons and then powering them up. In this guide, I'll give you a clear plan to play Demonology in Mythic Plus. This is for new or returning players who want to understand the basics without getting lost in the details. We'll go over what makes Demo unique, the talent setup you'll be using, and a step-by-step breakdown of how to manage your cooldown, imps, and tyrant cycles. By the end, you'll know exactly how to handle the spec without feeling overwhelmed. Demonology is all about commanding a small army of demons. Other Warlock specs can choose a small little demon to accompany them, either an imp, a void walker, a succubus, or a fell hunter. But as Demonology, you get a Felguard as your permanent companion. The Felguard hits harder, tanks better, and brings unique utility like a stun, which makes it one of the strongest baseline demons in the game. From there, the rotation builds around a simple loop. Spend resources to summon demons, then use cooldowns to make them stronger. Your main resource is soul shards, and you can hold up to 5 at a time. You build shards with Shadow Bolt, your basic filler, and with Demon Bolt, the instant version you get whenever you gain a demonic core proc. Shadow Bolt generates 1 shard and Demon Bolt generates 2. And the whole point is to stockpile shards so you can spend them on summons. Your primary shard spender is Hand of Gul'dan. Each soul shard you spend becomes a wild imp. Spend 3 shards, get 3 imps. This is the foundation of your army building gameplay. On top of that, you also have stronger demons tied to cooldowns like Dreadstalkers, Vilefiend, and Grimoire Felguard, all of which slot into the same cycle. And of course, being a Warlock means you bring extra utility to the group. You can drop health stones to your party, summon people into the dungeon with a ritual stone, and place demonic gateways that let your whole group cross large gaps or skip mechanics. Even outside of pure damage, you're offering value that other classes can't match. When it comes to hero talents, there isn't much debate. In Mythic Plus, Demonology always plays with Diabolist. The reason is simple: it gives you a ton of extra passive damage without adding new buttons to your rotation. Here is how it works. Diabolist gives you something called Diabolic Ritual. Every time that ritual expires, it summons one of 3 powerful demons, either an Overlord, a Mother of Chaos, or a Pit Lord. You don't press anything to make this happen, they just appear automatically as part of the same rotation you perform. Each one of those demons does something special when they're out. When you summon a Mother of Chaos, your Shadow Bolt temporarily changes into Infernal Bolt. Instead of generating 1 shard, it suddenly gives you 3. When you summon a Pit Lord, your next Hand of Gul'dan turns into Ruination. This is an upgraded version of Hand of Gul'dan. It doesn't cost any soul shards, and it deals more damage while summoning imps just like normal. When an Overlord shows up, it doesn't change any of your buttons, but it still matters. The Overlord hits hard, and every target it strikes takes 5% extra damage from you for 15 seconds. Now that we've covered hero talents, let's take a look at the actual talent tree. For talents, here's the build we'll be using on screen. Most of the points are pretty much locked in, and you won't really change much from dungeon to dungeon. Where you do have some flexibilities in the bottom rows. One popular setup is to take Doom, Impending Doom, and Pact of Arid Ruin. Another option is to drop those 3 points and instead go into Sacrifice Souls, Umbral Blaze, and Improve Demonic Tactics. Both versions are viable, and which one you run comes to preference. Also, you're welcome to sim yourself and compare which build will do more damage depending on your gear. If you do end up picking Doom, here's how it works. Every time you cast a Demon Bolt, it applies Doom to the target. Doom is a long damage over time effect with a 20-second duration, and when it expires, it explodes for a big hit. The trick is that every Hand of Gul'dan you cast reduces the duration of all active Dooms by 1 second per soul shard spent. So, if you cast a 3-shard Hand of Gul'dan, every Doom out there ticks down 3 seconds, meaning they'll explode much sooner. With Impending Doom, each explosion also summons a Wild Imp, which adds extra value, but the real prize is Pact of Arid Ruin. This gives your Dooms a chance to summon a Doomguard when they expire. The Doomguard sticks around to fire off 5 Doom Bolts, and each one hits very hard before it disappears. The gameplay loop with Doom is simple. Use your demonic core procs to apply Doom across as many enemies as possible. Then, as you dump shards into Hand of Gul'dan, you're accelerating every Doom on those mobs, forcing them to explode sooner. Now let's talk about how to actually play Demonology. Everything revolves around repeating a simple cycle, and once you see the pattern, the spec suddenly makes sense. Here's how your opener works. Before the pool even starts, use Power Siphon to sacrifice 2 imps and give yourself 2 demonic core procs. Then start with a Shadow Bolt to build shards, and as it lands, drop your first big cooldown demon, Grimoire Felguard. Cast another Shadow Bolt for shards, then summon your Vilefiend, and follow it up with another Shadow Bolt to call Dreadstalkers. At this point, you'll have your major demons out: Grimoire Felguard, Vilefiend, and the Dreadstalkers. Now it's time to summon a bunch of imps. Spend your demonic core charges on Demon Bolt to get shards quickly, and then use Hand of Gul'dan at 3 shards to summon 3 imps. Do this until you're around 9 to 10 imps active. Once your army is out, press Summon Demonic Tyrant. This extends the duration of all your active demons and buffs their damage. Immediately after Tyrant, use Demonic Strength to maximize the window. From there, your job is simple. Keep generating shards with Shadow Bolt or Demon Bolt and spend them at 3 shards with Hand of Gul'dan. After the opener, you repeat the cycle. Every minute, you'll set up another Tyrant window with Dreadstalkers, Vilefiend, and around 10 imps. Every 2 minutes, you add Grimoire Felguard on top of it. And that's all there is to it. It's all about lining your summons so your Tyrant always have something big to empower. Sometimes your cooldowns won't line up perfectly. For example, a Vilefiend has a 25-second cooldown and Dreadstalkers are on a 20-second cooldown. That means they can drift a little. In those cases, don't panic. Just wait a couple of seconds so you can bring them out together before Tyrant. And in dungeons, sometimes the pack dies too fast or you have to move, and that's fine. You don't need to play perfectly. Just keep thinking, am I getting as many demons out as possible before my Tyrant? If you do that, you're playing Demonology correctly. Between your big Tyrant windows, you're mainly managing soul shards and demonic core procs. The one thing you always remember is that you can only hold up to 4 demonic core charges. If you go over that, you're wasting procs, so make sure you spend them regularly. Demonic Core comes from 2 places: when your Dreadstalkers expire and when you use Power Siphon to sacrifice a couple of imps. Each charge gives you a free instant Demon Bolt, and Demon Bolt is great because it generates 2 shards instead of 1. As for spending shards, the general rule is to use Hand of Gul'dan at 3 shards to get the maximum number of imps. But the main exception is when you're setting up for a Tyrant window and you're running out of time. In those cases, it's better to cast 1 or 2 shards Hand of Gul'dan so you can get your imps out and press Tyrant before your big demons expire. Losing a couple of imps is far less punishing than missing the chance to empower your Dreadstalkers, Vilefiend, or Grimoire Felguard. So really your filler phase, so to speak, isn't about the damage on its own. It's about keeping shard flow smooth so when Tyrant comes back up, you already got imps and cooldown demons ready to go. Now let's talk about Implosion, because this spell trips up a lot of players. What it does is simple. It throws all your active imps at the enemy, and the more targets there are, the harder it hits. But the timing of when you press it is really important. Here is the first rule. Never implode during your Tyrant window. Your Tyrant extends and empowers all your imps, so if you blow them up early, you're just wasting damage. Instead, let your Tyrant run its course, and once it disappears, that's when you'll have a big wave of imps left over that you can just throw with Implosion for a huge AoE hit. The second rule to think about is the target count. Implosion really shines when you got like 5, 6, 7 enemies in front of you. On smaller packs, say, I don't know, 2, 3 mobs, it's usually better just to let your imps keep firing and feed into your next tyrant window. The last use case is when you got a bunch of them and they're about to expire anyway, send them with an implosion so that damage doesn't go to waste. Right, so that was Demonology in Mythic Plus. A spec might look like a mess at first, but once you break it down, it's just a simple cycle you repeat. Get your demons out, and then empower them with Tyrant. That's the whole game plan. The rest is just practice. The more you play, the better you'll get at lining things up, knowing when to delay your Tyrant for a mechanic, and deciding whether Implosion is worth it. But even at a basic level, if you stick to the cycle I showed you, you're already playing Demonology correctly. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. If you like these kind of videos, hit like and subscribe for more World of Warcraft guides just like this one. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.